My sister, a curator at a museum in Athens, had to deal with an American tourist who was adamant that the Parthenon was incomplete. He couldn't accept that it was a ruin and insisted that the Greek government was too broke to finish the construction. He then offered to start a GoFundMe campaign back in the States to raise money to put a roof on the thing and install some nice glass windows so it could finally be a proper finished building. While I was bartending in a historic pub in Munich, an American loudly declared that German beer purity laws were stifling creativity. He proceeded to lecture me and the surrounding locals on how American craft breweries were superior because they added things like fruit, coffee, and even glitter to their beers. He insisted that Germans were stuck in the past and needed to embrace the American spirit of innovation if they ever wanted their beer to be considered world-class. I was on a whale watching tour in Iceland when an American tourist became visibly bored. He asked the guide if there was a way to lure the whales closer with some food. When the guide explained that feeding wild animals was forbidden and harmful, the tourist sighed and said, "Well, at American theme parks, the animals are trained to perform. You guys are really missing an opportunity to make this more entertaining. It's all about the customer experience." I was at a ramen restaurant in Tokyo, and an American family at the next table was struggling with their chopsticks. The father loudly called the chef over and with complete sincerity advised him to invent a new kind of noodle that can be eaten with a fork. He called it a billion-dollar idea and explained that catering to the convenience of the American consumer is the first rule of global business. He was genuinely trying to help the chef disrupt the noodle industry. My friend works for the city planning department in Amsterdam. He had a meeting with an American consultant who suggested that the city's famous network of canals should be drained and converted into a multi-lane underground highway system. The consultant presented a PowerPoint showing how this would solve traffic congestion and boost the economy, calling the canals a charming but obsolete feature that was holding the city back from becoming a truly modern American-style metropolis. An American executive visiting our company's headquarters in Seoul, South Korea, was baffled by the concept of bowing. He told our CEO that it was a subservient and inefficient way to greet someone, and that a firm, confident American handshake was the universal sign of respect in the business world. He then tried to physically demonstrate by grabbing the CEO's hand, forcing an awkward handshake while the rest of the Korean team looked on in horror. An American tourist in a crowded market in Bangkok complained that there were no proper sidewalks or traffic lanes. He then began directing people, yelling, "Okay, let's form a single file line here. Walk on the right, people." He tried to explain to a confused Thai vendor that in America, we have systems for pedestrian flow and that their chaotic free-for-all was a disaster waiting to happen. I was on a safari in South Africa when an American tourist asked the guide if the Park Service ever mows the savannah. He said the tall yellow grass looked messy and unkempt, and that a nice short green lawn like a golf course would make it much easier to spot the animals. He was completely serious, suggesting a landscaping plan for a national park. During a cooking class in Chiang Mai, Thailand, an American participant refused to use the fresh coconut milk being prepared. He insisted it was unsanitary and asked for a can of light coconut milk instead, claiming it was healthier because it has fewer calories. He then tried to school the Thai chef, a woman in her 70s, on the dangers of saturated fats, citing a blog he read, and explained that American food science had proven fresh ingredients are often less safe than processed packaged ones. I witnessed an American tourist in a bustling spice market in Jaipur, India, lecturing a vendor on food safety. He told the man that selling spices from open-air sacks was a lawsuit waiting to happen. He then pulled out a small bottle of hand sanitizer, applied it vigorously, and advised the vendor that he should individually package and seal everything in plastic, according to FDA guidelines if he ever wanted to be a legitimate, trustworthy business. At a flamenco performance in Seville, Spain, an American man in the front row kept sighing loudly. During the intermission, he approached the guitarist and told him that the music was too emotional and unstructured. He then suggested that the troupe should incorporate a steady Simple 4/4 drum beat, like in rock and roll, to make the music more accessible and danceable for a global audience. He was genuinely trying to give them what he considered helpful artistic advice. I was working in an office in Sweden where we all took a fika, a mandatory coffee and cake break together every afternoon. A new American manager tried to cancel it, calling it a government-mandated waste of company time. He explained that in the US, we drink coffee at our desks while we work to increase productivity. He was genuinely baffled when the entire team explained that fika was non-negotiable and actually improved morale and efficiency. My German friend was driving an American colleague on the Autobahn. The American was white-knuckling the passenger door handle and told my friend he was being reckless. He then tried to explain that speed limits like the ones in the United States are a sign of a responsible and advanced society, and that the German lack of a universal limit was a primitive and dangerous system that a modern country should have evolved past by now. A tourist in Peru was watching a local woman weaving a complex, beautiful textile on a traditional backstrap loom. The American watched for a few minutes, then told the weaver, "You're doing that the hard way." She then pulled out her phone and showed the weaver a website for a factory that mass produces blankets. "You see, machines are so much faster. You should really automate your process. It's just smart business." I was working at a traditional espresso bar in Rome, the kind where you stand at the counter for a minute. An American woman came in and tried to order a venti half-calf soy milk latte with 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla and extra caramel drizzle. I politely explained we only serve traditional Italian coffee. She looked at me with pity and said, "Oh, you poor thing. You guys haven't gotten the full Starbucks menu yet. I can write down my order, and you can use it as a template to modernize your little shop. It's what people actually want." While visiting a Maasai village in Kenya as part of an ethical cultural exchange, an American tourist began to lecture the village elder on property ownership. He couldn't grasp the concept of communal land and insisted that they needed to divide everything up into private lots with fences. He argued that the American model of individual home ownership is the only way to build real wealth and progress, and that their traditions were keeping them impoverished. After attending a stunning performance of the Russian ballet in St. Petersburg, I overheard an American telling his companion that it was visually nice, but the plot was impossible to follow. He suggested that the performance would be 1,000 times better if they just had the dancers speak the dialogue like in a Broadway show. He added, "All that silent dancing is a very outdated form of storytelling. You have to innovate." While visiting the pyramids at Giza, an American in my tour group asked the guide why they didn't install an elevator, or at least an escalator to the top. He said the climbing was a huge OSHA violation, and that in America we make our monuments accessible for everyone. He then added that a gift shop and a Starbucks at the summit would dramatically improve the visitor experience and generate more revenue for maintenance. My uncle runs a small, family-owned vineyard in Argentina that specializes in Malbec. During a wine tasting, an American tourist told him that his wine was decent, but that he was missing a huge market by not producing a white Zinfandel. He then tried to explain to my uncle, whose family has been making wine for a century, that in America, we know that sweet pink wine is what the masses really drink, and that he should pivot his business model to focus on a volume over quality. I was on a guided hike in the Swiss Alps. An American in the group complained about the lack of safety railings along the entire trail. He told our Swiss guide, "In America, our lawyers would have a field day with this. You have a major liability issue." He then spent the next hour explaining the American legal system and the importance of idiot-proofing nature to prevent lawsuits, suggesting the Swiss were being dangerously negligent with their mountains. In a souk in Marrakesh, an American refused to haggle for a leather bag. He told the shopkeeper, "Sir, this whole song and dance is very unprofessional. In America, we have a simple system called a price tag. It's fair, it's transparent, and it saves everyone time." He then offered to teach the shopkeeper how to implement a modern fixed-price retail model for his stall. A tourist at the ancient ruins of Pompeii An American tourist, visibly unimpressed by the preserved city, asked me when the Italian government in it was planning to clean up all the rubble and rebuild. He then explained that in America, a historical site like this would be turned into a profitable theme park with rides and actors, costumes. He genuinely advised me to pass along his suggestion, calling it a billion-dollar idea to make this old place actually interesting for kids. I was on a boat tour of the Galapagos Islands. An American tourist became frustrated that the wildlife wasn't performing on cue. He asked the naturalist guide why they hadn't trained the sea lions to wave or the tortoises to come closer for photos. He then seriously suggested that the Ecuadorian government should implement a program similar to SeaWorld to make the animals more interactive and tourist-friendly, completely missing the entire point of the protected natural ecosystem. I was working at a bookstore in Dublin when an American tourist asked me to help him find a book by James Joyce. When I handed him a copy of Ulysses, he flipped through it and scoffed. "No, I need the American version," he said. When I told him this was the original text, he replied, "But it's full of all these weird Irish words and slang. Someone needs to translate this into proper American English so people can actually understand what he's talking about. It's unreadable." My cousin is a tea master in Kyoto, Japan, and hosts traditional tea ceremonies. An American woman on a tour group interrupted the quiet meditative process to complain that the matcha was grassy and not sweet enough. She then pulled out a packet of artificial sweetener from her purse, stirred it into the ceremonial bowl, and told the master, "See, that's how you fix it. You should offer sugar to your customers. It's just basic hospitality. This is how we do it at Starbucks, and they're very successful."